Hey Crypto Trapper with another video today. I hope everyone is doing good. I hope everyone is blessed. Hope everyone's family is doing good. So today I'm gonna be reading out 3 articles to do with Russia being banned from Swift. I'm gonna be playing a video at the end, basically entailing the EU. This lady here you see on the screen, basically talking about how the EU is gonna basically try and ban Swift. And in this video, I'm going to explain a little bit of Swift. I'm going to make a video about it. I should be putting out one today. But let's get into this. So Swift, Russian ban could force Fed to step in. Credit Suisse says. Let's get into this. This is the decision to exclude various Russian lenders from the Swift messaging system could result in missed payments and giant overdrafts within the international banking system and spur monetary authorities to reactive daily operations to supply the market with dollars. According to Credit Suisse Group AG strategist Zoltan Polazar, I apologize if I said the name wrong, but I'm going to say it like that. Polazar published a note Sunday examining the consequences for money markets of the decision to take some lenders off SWIFT, which facilitates trillions of dollars of international payments between institutions. So I'm going to highlight this. I'm going to highlight this for you guys. So SWIFT. So I'm going to explain what SWIFT is quickly. I'm not going to be too long. There we go. So SWIFT is a cooperative society under Belgian law and it is owned and controlled by shareholders representing approximately 3,500 financial institutions across the world. The shareholders elect a board of 25 independent directors representing banks across the world. So basically, as in the summary on Google, what I just read, SWIFT deals with payments between banks. So yeah, let me continue. Drawing comparison with the 2008 Lehman Brothers failure and the pandemic-related market seizures of March 2020, Polazar warns that central banks should stand ready to make markets on Monday again. Exclusions from SWIFT will lead to missed payments and giant overdrafts similar to the missed payments and giant overdrafts that we saw in March 2020. So I tried so I tried to look that up. So I typed in missed payments and overdrafts that we saw in March 2020. And long story short, I found some information, but I don't think it was the greatest. But I found some PDF files and had a lot of information, some great information. So I'm going to put that in another video because I don't want to make this too long. So yeah, I'm going to continue. So Polazar wrote banks' inability to make payments due to the extensions from SWIFT is the same as the Lehman inability to make payments due to its clearing bank's unwillingness to send payments on its behalf. History does not repeat itself, but it rhymes. In Polazar's view, current excess reserves and reserve repurchase agreements facilities won't be enough, and monetary authorities will need to act. And the upshot from that is that the Federal Reserve, which has been paving the way to start shrinking its balance sheet through so-called quantitative sizing, tightening, might actually expand it again. First, according to Pelosi, stepping up the pressure on Russia's financial system. European Union Foreign Affairs Minister approved banning all transactions with Russia's central bank, according to officials familiar with the decision. So I'm gonna highlight. I know you guys probably don't like me highlighting this, but I think the key what they're trying to do, as what I just read out in the beginning, Swift are trying to, although the European Union is trying to ban Russia from Swift. I apologize. So Russia's gonna have to do something different. So I think they're gonna get into crypto. They most likely have been into crypto, but I think this year's gonna be definitely. I think last year was a big year for crypto in terms of adoption and in terms of adoption. But I don't think it really went mainstream. But it was really getting to the public, the average person eyes. But I think this year's gonna be definitely huge, man. I'm gonna continue. So, Russia incite central bank sanctions may lie fuse to crisis. The bank may be rendered impotent in defending the ruble if sanctions are successful, according to National Australia Bank strategists. The intention of the sanction is to deny the bank unfettered access to its 643 billion of FX reserves. I apologize again. Ray Attrell, head of FX strategy, wrote in a note, if CBR can't access reserves, it can't defend the RUB from freefall. So FA, what I'm talking about, FX reserves. So I'm gonna show you what it basically is quickly. No, that's the 10-man groups. My bad. So the International Bank of Russia, the International Reserve of Russian. I'm gonna XF reserves mean. So let's go to their website. So FX reserves is basically the Bank of Russia, the International Reserve of the Russian Federation. I'm gonna highlight a couple things for you guys quickly. So you got International Reserve, foreign exchange reserve, SDRs, central drawing rights. Let me exit this. The reserve position, the IMF, and the quantity of gold they hold, just to let you guys know. So let me continue with the article. The greenback surges. The greenback is rising against every group of 10 pair has fallen from the worsening conflict in Ukraine fuels demand for the world's reserve currency. Investors are seeking shelter as markets volatility surges and on the crisis that adding to existing global inflationary pressures. So the group of 10, just to give you more information quickly, and I'll add my own little point on. So the group of 10, or the G10, is a group of 11 industrial nations that have similar economic interests. The G10 was formed when the wealthiest members of the International Monetary Reserve, the IMF, we just spoke about that in the FX reserves, agreed to be part of the general group meetings, at least annual, if not more, often to discuss, debate, and cooperate on financial matters that concern. The G10 is one of 5 groups comprised of variety of nations. The other groups are G7, G8, G10, etc. So just a quick little information on that. And as in the article said, the world's reserve, no, sorry, apologize about the world's reserve. So the world's reserve currency investors are seeking shelter as the market's volatility surges. So you're gonna see more. I reckon more people are gonna hedge their bets into crypto and precious metals and all of these things. So yeah, again, inflationary pressure. So anyway, let me continue. A gauge of BBDXY of the dollar climbs as much as 0.6 on Monday, extending last week's 0.4 gain as Western nations ramp up sanctions on Russia over its invasion of Ukraine. A key question is how the turmoil will affect the Federal Reserve's plan for a series of interest rate hikes starting March. So yeah, that's going to be very interesting when they increase the interest rate. I'm going to put out a video about that as well. But let me continue. Don't want to waste too much time with you guys. The Russian ruble, which weakens 6.9 to 83 per dollar last week, will be in sharp focus when offshore trading starts Monday. Russian bonds were cut junk by S&P Global rankings on Friday. On the ground, citizens have lined up cash at cash machines around the country to withdraw foreign currencies, fearful of a ruble collapse. Yeah, so don't be surprised, man. It's only gonna get worse. So invest in crypto now. But let me continue. Officials from Kiev will meet Russian counterparts at the Belarus border hours after President Vladimir Putin put Russia nuclear forces on high alert, and even as fighting continues inside Ukraine. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky voiced skepticism that talks would yield result, but said he was willing to try if it means any chance of peace. So there's a lot of key things they said. So Russians are fearful of the ruble collapsing, so what they're gonna put their money into to hedge against the collapsing precious metals, cryptos, I believe. So another thing. So I'm gonna read out the next article and continue. Article I'm gonna be reading out. I do apologize if there's little pause or because I'm basically reading out one article after the other in it, but I'm splitting I split the video, so yeah. But anyway, let's get into this. So EU to ban 7 Russian banks from Swiss spare key firms. European Union ambassador agreed to exclude 7 Russian banks from SWIFT financial messaging system, but spared the nation's biggest lender, Esberg Bank, PJSC, SE and a bank part owned by Russian gas giant Gazprom PJSC. VTM Bank and Bank Rosa are among the banks that face a ban from the messaging system that enables trillions of dollars worth of transactions around the world, according to officials familiar with the decision. So, for the people who don't know, what am I gonna do? Actually, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna leave it. But for the people who don't know, Swift handles trillions, as is in the article, just as in the article states. You understand? From bank to bank and so and other financial institutions as well. But yeah, let me continue. Transactions around the world to officials familiar with this with the decision. The message the measures in response to Russian leader Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine are expected to be adopted overnight. Yeah, so they've been wanting to do this anyway, man. It's like this perfect excuse for them, do you understand? But let me continue. The other institutions included on the EU list are Bank Otriki. Before I even go to the next one, I apologize. Apologize about me pronouncing the name wrong. So I might just do not my own version, of course, but just to make it simpler for myself. Novo Novico Bank, Novacom Bank. I'm not even gonna say that. I'm calling it Prom Bank. You can say that if you want. Sovacom Bank and VEB.RF said the officials who asked not to be identified because the decision was private. Let me highlight that quickly. Let me highlight that. Yeah. You see that bit there? See that bit there where they say the officials who asked not to be identified because of the decision was private. They're not doing it because it was private. See how they just the play on words. They're doing it because of their safety. Do you understand? There's gonna if Russia ever found out who these individuals were who made that decision about it's private, there's consequences. You get me? Because at the end of the day, they're playing with finances. You understand? They're playing with people's money. So you understand? But let's get back into this anyway. Some countries, include Poland, had pushed for more banks to be included in the measure. They say the measures will only come into force 10 days after the adoption. People said one major member had asked for 30 days, they added, while unlike the list could still be tweaked before it formally comes into force. Blocking finance. Top Russian banks have recently come under various sanction measures. So this is a little list of sanctions or the watch list. So you got Serber Bank. It's not mentioned, but it's on the sanction list by the UK. Wait, sanction list EU. Sorry. So as you can see, cut off from the US financial system, prohibition on correspondent banking and sterling clearing. So full blocking sanctions of asset freeze, VTB. You got blocking sanction asset freeze shut out from EU capital markets. So they're just trying to blackball Russia. So in my personal opinion, they have to get into crypto or something. They have to. They're gonna have to get into the cross-border payments like XRP and all these XLM or something. Do you understand? Because yeah, in my personal opinion, anyway, asset freeze added to the 2014 sanctions list, shut out from EU capital markets. Novacom blocking sanctions, asset freeze. Sofocom blocking sanction, asset freed. Yeah. VEB, the RF, asset freeze added 014 sanctions. So they've been sanctioned that. So they've been wanting to do this to Russia anyway. As in the article states, some of these banks or institutions been blocked since 014. So this is more like a proper whitewash or blackball. I'm never gonna say that name again. Prom Bank, asset freeze, shut down 014 sanctions out from the EU market. This list is not extinguished from Swift list. Probable pro, proposal flipping. Hey, moving a bit brain dead. I apologize. That the absence of the Spera Bank and Gazprom Bank shows a continuing level of concern over the consequences for Europe from a financial isolation of Russia spilling over into the global economy, especially when it comes to energy supplies. The bloc is also worried Russia could retaliate by cutting deliveries. The plan to boost some Russian banks off Swift of the Swiss messaging system was announced over the weekend in a joint statement by the European Commission, US, France, Germany, Italy, UK, and Canada. Why Swift ban is such a potent sanction on Russia quick trade. Sberbank has twice as many assets as any other bank in Russia, the world's largest energy exporter. Okay. It holds around half of the country's deposits with more than 100 million retail clients. Gazprom Bank is a key bank for Russia's energy conglomerates. Swift, which delivers secure messages among more than 11,000 financial institutions and companies, is central to the global financial system. So that is what I'm gonna highlight. No, I'm gonna highlight the whole thing actually. So about this, I'm gonna tell you a quote. I'm gonna state that again. So what am I doing? 1 second. Sorry about this, guys. In a bit. Okay. I'm going to read it again for more emphasis. So, Swift, which delivers secure messages among more than 11,000 financial institutions and companies, is central to the global financial system, and an inability to access it could cause significant economic damage. Russia has developed its own messaging system, but it has fewer than 400 financial institutions and foreign firms. So, as in the article states, Russia's got its own messaging system. So Russia's been trying to. They've had this problem with European Union and America, going back to what I was saying before, some of the sanctions from 014, from 2014. So in their mind, it was the only logical things to have your own messaging system, so you don't get blackballed out of the system. And do you understand? So yeah, so it's going to be a very interesting time. But again, some of you don't know what Swift is. Look into Swift. I'm gonna make a video about Swift, but as it says, is central to the global financial system. So it's super important. You know what Swift is? It's basically, how can I put it, man? It's based. I was gonna say the machine, but no, I'm not gonna say that. But look into Swift anyway. Swift Swift based in Swift based in Belgium said that while it is a neutral global cooperative with members in 200 countries, it's obliged to comply with the EU and Belgian regulations. We will disconnect them once we receive legal instruction to do so, the organization said in a statement on Thursday. So yeah, man, they just Russia's being blackballed, man. But obviously, I don't condone the fighting and all of that, but they're being blackballed, man. But anyway, I'm gonna read out the next article now. Let me pause. So the last article is why SWIFT ban is such a potent sanction on Russia. So let's get into this. Excluding Russia from the global banking SWIFT messaging system was always seen as an extreme option to push President Vladimir Putin for his actions in Ukraine. Some were reluctant to impose it. France's finance minister called the financial nuclear weapon called it the nuclear financial. He called it the financial nuclear weapon. Yeah, it's gonna destroy it. They know exactly what they're doing, man. They're gonna weaken their economy, and whether it's war or yeah, if you're yeah, especially when it comes to war, you need money, man. You need money. You understand? Money, power, respect. You understand? So if you weaken someone's money, weaken a country's money value, they're gonna look to put the rich are gonna look to, or even the poor as well, gonna look to put their money in precious metals, whether it be gold, platinum, silver, whatever it may be, and even into crypto. I think some people will be putting it into. But let me continue with this anyway. Yet on February 26th, the US and its allies put aside fears over the potential hit to their own economies and moved to shut a group of Russian lenders out of the network that left bankers and diplomats racing to grasp the repercussions for everything from energy exports to debt and currency markets. So it's got some. So in this article, it's got a couple of points. So let me read them out for you. So, one, what is SWIFT? SWIFT is the Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunications. It's the Gmail of global banking. It delivers secure messages amongst more than 11,000 financial institutions and companies in over 200 countries and territories, handling trillions of dollars in transactions. The message traffic 42 million a day on average last year, including orders and confirmations for payments, trades, and currency exchanges. A member owned cooperative based just outside Brussels, Swift was founded in 1873 to end reliance of the Texter, the telex system. That was a slower, older system. Let me continue. Why is losing Swift access such a big deal? A country cut off from Swift can suffer significant economic pain. That's what happened to Iran in 2012 when its bank lost access as part of European Union sanctions targeting the country's nuclear program and its sources of finance. Many of the many of the banks were connected in 2016 after the EU took them off its sanction list. When Western nations threatened Russia's access to SWIFT in 2014, Alexei Kordorin, a one-time financial minister, close to Putin examined that it could reduce Russia's gross domestic product by 5% in a year. Who's been banned? The US was working with European Union partners to finalize the list of Russian banks to be cut off from SWIFT. It was set to include 7 lenders, including state-controlled VTB, VTBR Bank Rosa, and Bank Otriki. I can't even pronounce that. According to an EU draft, some of those targeted already face other sanctions. Serba and Gazprom Bank were excluded from the proposal under concerns over the potential economic fallout for Europe. Sberbank has twice as many assets as any other bank in Russia, and Bank is a key bank for Russia's energy conglomerates. Why is the initial reluctance to impose a SWIFT ban? The US President Biden cited the lack of unity amongst European nations as a reason. Another fear was a fear among Western officials that banning countries from SWIFT will enrage development of an alternative system. So that's like XRP, XLM, XTC, the ISO 2020. So please look into that. I'll be making a video about that, and I'll be making a video about, I'm not gonna say it in this video, but it's on that topic, and it's very, very, very important, man. It's gonna be the underbelly of those things. But the SWIFT move could result in missed payment. Wait. Yeah, the alternative system, plus there's the likelihood of collateral damage. The SWIFT move could result in missed payments, giant overdrafts within the international banking system, says Credit Suisse strategist Zoltan Polazar. We spoke about him from before in the first article, who compared this situation to the '08 failure of the Lehman Brothers and the pandemic-related slump of March 2020. Europe uses SWIFT to send payments for Russian natural gas. It needs to heat its homes and power factories, meaning a ban could threaten supplies in the midst of winter heating period, adding to a already heightened cost of living in the region. A German government spokesman said purchase of Russian gas were possible using SWIFT even after the ban. Of course, because they know the energy is very important. That's another thing, super important in this world, but they know they can't. If they do that, they were to collapse that, Russia will just go to war. Might as well. If you're gonna take us down, we're gonna take you down with us. So yeah, but anyway, let me get back into the fifth point. Is there another alternative to SWIFT? Before I continue, of course there is. XRP, XLM, XTC, the ISO 2020s. Please look that up. Whether it's on my channel or someone else's channel, please look up the correct information. Look into it in depth, please. I know some of you are busy, whether you got kids or whatever it may be, but please look into that. That information there will change your life. Not financial advice, but let me continue. Not really. Not really, or at least not yet. Not really, or at least not yet. Look at the wording they're using. Not really. Not really. So, are you sure? You're not sure? It's no or yes. Do you understand? Let's say not really, or at least not yet. XRP's fighting the lawsuit with the SEC. So, it's or at least not yet. Not yet. You know? So let me continue anyway. Let me continue. Since 2014, the Bank of Russia has run its own financial messaging system for Russia and foreign banks, but that only only has, but that one has only about 400 users. The People's Bank of China in 2001, I was going to say 2001, 2021, announced a joint venture with Swift that was seen in some quarters as an insurance policy against being cut off from the global financial system. Probably was smart move. Digital currencies and the underlying technology have also been touted as a threat to Swift for several years, but they're nowhere close to replacing it. Look what they're saying. I'm going to read that little bit again. Digital currencies. So, I'm not going to state Bitcoin, but XRP again, XDC, XLM, and the underlying technologies, cross-border payments, liquidity, have also been touted as a threat to Swift. They are a threat to Swift, whether they like it or not, for several years. But they're nowhere close to replacing it. Only time. I think they will replace it, or at least they're gonna be a part. They're gonna definitely be a part of it, or one or the other. They're having a strong stake in it. But anyway, 6. How secure is Swift? There have been multiple attempts to rob financial institutions through fraudulent messaging on Swift. Some of them successful. Bangladesh's central bank lost 81 million to hackers who breached it in 2016 and tricked the Federal Reserve Bank of New York in sending funds. Swift emphasized that its own network hasn't been breached, but it's beefed up security in the wider industry with mandatory and advisory controls at member firms. Who regulates Swift? Since it doesn't hold deposits, Swift isn't regulated the way a bank is. It's overseen by National Bank of Belgium and represents from the US Federal Reserve, the Bank of England, the European Central Bank, the Bank of Japan, and other central banks. Generally speaking, Swift would cut off access only if the European Union passed sanctions against a particular entity or country. Swift suspended certain Iranian leaders in 2018 after the US imposed a new round of sanctions, although it says that was an isolated event that was taken in the interest of the ability and integrity of the wider global financial systems. Do you need that information? No, I'll put that here. So, it's your boy Crypto Trapper, and I'm out. So, some key points just before I go. There's been some key points. There's some key points. Please look into Swift again. Please look into what's going on within the world and the greatest schemes of things. Look into crypto especially. Position yourself. Not financial advice. But it's your boy Crypto Trapper, and I'm out.
A certain number of Russian banks are removed from SWIFT. This will ensure that these banks are disconnected from the international financial system and harm their ability to operate globally. SWIFT is the world's dominant global interbank payment system. Cutting banks off will stop them from conducting most of their financial transactions worldwide and effectively block Russian exports and imports. Second, we will stop Putin from using his war chest. We will paralyze the assets of Russia's central bank. This will freeze its transactions and it made it impossible for the central bank to liquidate assets. And finally, we will work to prohibit Russian oligarchs from using their financial assets on our markets. All of these measures will significantly harm Putin's ability to finance his war. And they will have an eroding, severely eroding impact on his economy. Putin embarked on a path aiming to destroy Ukraine. But what he's also doing, in fact, is destroying the future of his own country.